Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fisdap Tips and Tricks webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that due to the volume of attendees, all lines have been muted. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them through the chat, and we'll save some time to address them at the end of the webinar. Today's Tips and Tricks topic is Fisdap Scheduler and Compliance. Our host is Kurt Van Oort. Kurt's a solutions consultant and has been with Fisdap for over 4 years. So without further delay, I'll pass it off to you, Kurt.
Thanks, Haley. Do you hear me okay, and do you see the Fisdap tips and tricks slide?
Yep, we can hear you and see that first slide there.
All right, perfect. All right, let's move into this. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And we started doing these with a couple of intents in mind. So at the end, you may get a survey, and if so, please give suggestions possibly to other tips and tricks. What we'd like this to grow into is really an FAQ video-based help session as well. So it's something that you can attend if you can make it, and if not, a lot of people follow up to get the recordings. But then again, we also want to build a nice library of different tips and tricks. That's why we're trying to keep them to short, precise timelines as well as specific topics. So I just wanted to say that real quick. Thanks again for partaking in these. We hope you get something out of them, and we're trying to create these to be a great tool for the Fisdap community to use in a whole. Today, as Haley said, and it said in the beginning, we're going to talk about scheduler, and specifically with the compliance piece, the ability to make recurring PDF emails and send them along, and also show you a little bit about the subscription key that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but it is a great tool to be used. I am going to start this and get into it. I did let Ben Tape, who I know enough about Fisdap to be dangerous. Ben knows enough to make it do somersaults, but I have had internet issues today. If things seem to bog down and I poof, he might jump in and take over. Just so if that happens, that's what might go on. Let's get into this scheduler and talk a little bit about it. As most of you probably use the scheduling component, you're familiar with the different color codes. You can see students, where they're going. Right now, I have it showing all shifts. If you have a real busy program, this can get really full. And what we'll do is show you a few ways to handle some of that. But the main thing is, if you haven't seen it before, you'll notice some of these icons have little red hash box around the icon itself, as well as some of the names are red and bold. And what that means is the compliance tracking piece within Fisdap has said, hey, there's 2 students on this shift that for some reason have fallen out of compliance. What you can do with this, I'm going to show you how it works, and we'll step back and show you how you can set it up, is it becomes very easy for me to pop in here and say on the 24th, I've got 2 people that are non-compliant. I can simply click on that, and I'm going to get the list of the students, and also you'll see the 2 here that are highlighted in red. These students also in their own personal calendars get the same hash box around, so they know that they've fallen out of compliance. When I set this up, you'll see there's reminders that you can set up. And what this is geared to do is to make sure that CPR cards are not expired, to make sure immunizations are up to date, not expired, to make sure that when they go to Detroit Metro Hospital here in Michigan, that they need a photo ID badge. So we want to make sure that they're accumulating and they have all these things. And if they become non-compliant because of those, let's find a way to highlight them in the calendar, and that's exactly what this will do. It won't prohibit an individual student from signing up for future shifts. We're not going to automatically kick them off of a shift when they do become compliant, because if we look at the prime suspect here, Kurt Van Oort, and his thing, you'll see fingerprinting and HIPAA training. For whatever reason, those are in here, and I'll become a non-compliant by a date. So I might be compliant by the time I go on this event, so we're not going to, like I said, boot them off automatically. From this screen, I also have the ability to dig in a little bit deeper and actually say, you know what, this has happened, I just didn't update it earlier. Let's go in and edit the compliance. I can go in and make the changes that I need to do, and I'll step into this again, but it lets me get right to the different requirements, where I can search by a specific requirement type, or I can hunt for a person, be it an instructor or a student, and actually just pull up that individual student and get right to them so I can take care of what I need to take care of. And again, I will walk through this in a minute also to show how that works. But the main thing is, with our compliance requirements set, the calendar will pop up and really easily showcase somebody that is non-compliant, and then give you the tools to do that. How we set this up, some of these gray things up here, a lot of people might overlook and not even know they're up here. But in this compliance piece, First thing we'll talk about real quick is how do I set up my requirements? When I set these up, keep in mind that you can put requirements for your EMS program, which is going to be very specific things. And you can also do them within the shared network if you're part of a shared network. But I can also set up requirements for specific sites. And as we're looking at these things, you'll see a P in a circle or an S in a circle. And this is going to tell you if it's a program specific or a site specific compliance requirement. And this is where like the photo ID to go to a certain hospital I can put in here. How you build this list is when you first come into it, it's blank, is you simply go up to your requirements and say, I want to add some requirements. And it's pretty extensive what you can do. There is a list and there's reminders. Here's program is the P, site requirements is an S. I can choose from a standard list that Fisdap has built into it. If I'm using anything already, I can't access it, and you'll see that it's gray in color. But these are all ones that I can choose. So if I wanted to add a certain immunization or something to it, I can simply add this right to it. And now I can go through and have a little bit more control and say, you know what, people need to fulfill this regardless of where they're going. So if this is a requirement for my program, not site specific, here's where I can say regardless of where they're going, this is a requirement for them. Or I could also say, this is a requirement for specific field sites or clinical sites. So this is where I can get into very specific based on exactly where they're going. Maybe that location has something specific required that I want to make sure happens. So you got total control of all of this. You can actually assign requirements to all active or inactive, or I could just have one person I need to make requirements for. I can choose just one person to make this a requirement for. And I can also auto assign this. If you turn this on, anytime you bring in new students, these assignments are going to automatically be assigned to them. So if this is a requirement for every EMT student, maybe, then in this example, anytime a new EMT comes in, they're going to be assigned this vaccine for smallpox. There's also the ability I mentioned to put in notifications, and there are samples built in here so you can get a feel for what they look like. One of them that's kind of nice is this warning here, where I could turn on a warning and I could say, you know what, let's send them a warning 30 days before it expires, and then do another one maybe at 10 days. So now what'll happen is they'll get this format. It's going to say here's any of the compliance pieces that expire in the next 30 days, and then I'll send them another reminder 10 days before, and it'll go out. And they can also have the other two reminders here. This is when they get assigned something, we can send a reminder, and this would be once that due date hits, send them another one. So those are some great reminders just to give little proddings to help students stay ahead of the curve and get these things done before they do expire, because that's the last thing you want is a student with a compliance issue that's going somewhere when they shouldn't be going there. So that's how we're going to add them. That's how you're going to build your list of requirements. Oh, I wanted to hit this real quick too. You also have the ability, this is important too, if what you want to add as a compliance requirement is not in the list that Fisdap has pre-built, you do have the ability just to go at it and make your own. So you can add a requirement of your own and then go ahead and do all of these different categories. I can put it in the category, it does or does not expire. This is what's going to allow you to put in dates and everything else, but you can customize this 100% to meet whatever it is that the program needs or your individual sites require. We're also going to pop in real quick at some settings. This has to do with the warnings and the auto default. You can set this up as a default setting. Then when you set these compliance things, it will automatically come to however you set it. This has to do with the notification reminders, and also it's going to auto assign to new accounts as they come into the system. So how do we handle this? Let's say somebody is non-compliant and they had their driver's license came up for expiration. They brought in a new copy of a driver's license, and how do I do it? Once you get into status of everything, we're going to edit the status of these requirements. If somebody brought in a driver's license, I'm going to hit the status, and in this instance, I might say, you know what, let's sort this by people because an individual walked in and was a specific student, or students, and I can pull them up. And it's going to list all of the compliance, and if ID, here's a photo ID that they were not compliant in, I can just flip them once and make them compliant. If there's something with an expiration date, where here's an example of the expired ACLS certification. When they bring in a current certification, or when they go through that class because you've taught it and your students have completed ACLS, something you may want to do then is possibly come up here and use the requirements, to where I want to go in and say, show me I want to look by a requirement, and I want to look at the ACLS, and hit go. It's going to pull up all the students under ACLS. I'm going to be able to edit them all at once because they finished this course and we did the ACLS class. So here's all the things for ACLS, and I could just say, you know what, all of these people were there, and let's just mark them all compliant. So this tool, as we do all these things, it instantly is going to update people, and in the calendars, the red boxes will go away as they become compliant. And again, keep in mind, we do not kick people off the calendar or prohibit them from signing up for future shifts if they're non-compliant, because they may have that issue taken care of by the time they get there. But as you are doing all these things, it is live in the program and happening instantly as you go through and make any of these changes. So depending on what type of requirement it is, sometimes you might do it by requirement like we just said, or sometimes it might just be a person coming in with something and you need to make that one person compliant. You'll pull that one person up, and now all the different compliance requirements for that individual will be here, and we can go ahead and make that adjustment. Great tool to make sure that the Fisdap robot's staying on top of everybody and that everybody is staying compliant. Compliance will also trickle through. I'll show you this a little bit. When you're looking at students' portfolios, it can also be a part of that portfolio, and you can access that through the My Fisdap account, student portfolios, pull up a student, and in this portfolio, we will pull data from different components of Fisdap depending what you use. If you want to export this PDF as part of the student's record, the students can also get it, but you can decide what you want to include in that. If you do choose compliance, there will be a list, and ideally what it's going to show, it will show that everything should be compliant when this is done, and go through and just know that everything has been done and compliant. That's what will show up in the portfolio as well. Last couple of things I want to quick hit on before our 20 minutes is up here is talk a little bit about the PDF email recurring calendar. It comes up a lot in demonstrations. People might be exposed to it when they first see Fisdap, but may forget about it. Maybe it's lost in a header up here and they don't know about it. But there is the ability for you to make these recurring emails from your calendar, where I could go in and filter my calendar. And I think this is especially important for your students. Maybe right away get your students set up to create a calendar that say, hey, go in and create your calendar and show you only shifts you're signed up for, so you know exactly where you're going. And this is going to help students filter calendars, look at stuff that's just specific to them. And then also for your clinical sites, when I have clinical sites and I want to send a calendar to them on a regular basis to say, hey, next week, here's my students that are coming. The first thing that you do is go into your filter bar. These filters are in various places throughout Fisdap, and I'm just going to reset it a second. And simply what I'll do is go in and say, just show me some specific sites. If I grab one that has somebody, Covenant Health. I'll say, show me just Covenant Health. And let's look at just the ER. In this instance, that's the only one I had. And I don't want to see all shifts. I just want to see shifts that students are signed up for, and I can hit go. What this is going to do is it's going to make a calendar of just shifts that students are going to at Covenant Health ER. This is a great view, but now what's real nice is now that I've made this view, if I can make a recurring entry, I can create a calendar. Let's make it a recurring, and I'm going to make it week-long. We can turn on and off color, turn on and off legends. Give it a title so when it gets there, they'll know what it is. Down in this box here is where I can put a whole bunch of different emails or just one email. put a little note, thanks for working for our students. And now that I'm setting this up, I can come down here and say, let's send this, let's say 3 days before the end of the week. This little help thing will tell you that the week starts on Sunday, so 3 days before. What this would mean is that on every Thursday, the Fisdap robot is going to automatically create a calendar of just the students from my class going to the ER at Covenant Health. And once I set this up, it's like the old Ron Popeil oven, set it and forget it, and go ahead and save this recurring email. And now every Thursday, it will send an email to these people stating who's coming for the next week. Since I'm doing this, I do have to select an instructor. And now once I set that, this recurring email is going to happen every week, every Thursday. That list of emails is going to get that PDF catalog of here's who's coming next week for my class. I can edit all of these over here in the scheduler and just go to my recurring emails, because maybe there's a time when the ER might be closed or something's happening. I can make these recurring events inactive or active, and I can also go in and edit them. Maybe an email's changed. All I want to do is pop out this email, put in a new one, or something else has happened. And as again, as these are set up, they're just going to consistently go out. In this instance, every Thursday of here's who's coming from my program to this location. The last thing I want to hit on real quick, and then we'll open it up if there are any questions. We'll open it up for questions. Another great tool I mentioned just a minute ago is for students. Students have their personal calendar, whether it's a Google Cal, iCal, Outlook, whatever it is. They have these different calendars. Most of these calendars will let you subscribe to other calendars. So what you can do, and what's great for students would be, I'd have students go in, and as a student, just go in and you want all sites, you want everything that you can possibly have, just that you've signed up for, and go ahead and hit go. And what that will do for that individual student in this instance is just going to filter their calendar, and it's just going to show the things that they're going to. And what they can do now is go to subscribe, hit generate link. I could give it a name of, Hertz, Fisdap, shifts, give the calendar a name, and generate this link. What I can do now with this link as a student is I can take this link and copy it. And now I'm going to go into my online calendar service, whether it's Google or whatever it might be, and I'm going to paste this link in the right spot. And you can just Google all of these calendars, how to do a subscription, and it's pretty easy how to do it. But this is a link that they're going to need. They're going to cut and paste it into their Google Calendar settings. And now what will happen is, since Google updates once every 8 hours at least, anytime there's a change to the student's calendar, whether I signed up for a shift, whether an instructor signed me to a shift, maybe I swapped shifts, and my calendar is changing. When I set this up, what it's going to do is update automatically and pull all of my shifts that I'm supposed to be, whether it's a clinical shift, whether it's a day in the lab, anything in my calendar is going to pull it into my personal Google Calendar, which has got birthday parties, regular parties, mom's, at dinner at mom's house on Wednesday night, whatever it might be. All of this stuff now gets lumped in, and it will automatically update their personal calendar with their Fisdap shifts to help them get there. With this said, currently you can maintain one link per your account, so they can't make a whole bunch of links. But they can go ahead, if they go to try to create another one, it's going to tell them they can redo their look, create a new link, and it'll grab that look. That's just the 3 things we want to hit on real quick in this tips and tricks. And I think at this point, we'll open it up for any questions that may have come in and see where we need to go next.
Hey, Kurt, this is Ben. I just added something to the text, but I realized I can just jump in. Would you mind going back to that subscribe page? Because I just wanted to point out, you mentioned looking for instructions on how to actually link it into those various calendars. We actually have information on that. So if you click on where it says Google, it'll take you to our help page that is going to specifically walk you through the GCal steps and save those other 4 options there. So hopefully once this loads here in a moment, we'll see that. And there you go.
There it
takes you right to that. And so it's got the Google, it's got the iCal, and the Outlook and Yahoo instructions as well. So should help.
Perfect. See, and I didn't even know that was there. Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome.
And these are the exact steps to go through, and then you will get to this URL part. And that's where you're going to take this thing here and just copy it And of course, in the real one, you would paste it right there, add the calendar, and now it's in there, and now those updates will automatically go through. Thanks, Ben. Any other questions come up in the chat, Haley, that you saw?
Yeah, we did have one. One of the questions was, I've had clinical shifts not show up on the schedule. They show up on the student list, but not on the schedule. Do you know why?
A lot of times, the first thing I would do, and Ben, you can jump in if you know anything else after that. The first thing I would do, if something doesn't look right with your calendar, you don't see what you think you should see, is go back and make sure to reset all your filters. At some point, you may have, the filter may be set to exclude all clinical sites. Now all I'm going to see are field and lab sites. So whatever those settings will be. So the first thing I would try is go back here, hit the reset filters. It's going to put it all back to include everything, and hit go. That should take care of it. Ben, can you think of anything else that may cause that?
Yeah, so just various filters and or view options can cause that. So yeah, the reset filters option's good. If you click on the filter option again, if you would, Kurt. One thing that often is missed is the hide shifts that are invisible to students. So normally in the scheduler, students are only able to see shifts that they are able to sign up for. And if they aren't able to sign up for it, either if it's because they're an EMT and the shift is only for paramedics, or if the shift has 2 slots and both slots are full, or any of the other reasons why they might not be able to sign up for it, we just hide it completely. So this option, this hide shifts that are invisible to students, is a way that you can mimic seeing the student view, but it's also possible if that's left on and you are looking for a shift that has been signed up for that would normally be invisible to the students, it would be invisible to you as well if that was still on. So that gets removed if you do the reset filters and then hit go. So as Kurt mentioned, the best troubleshooting technique, if you're ever not seeing a shift in the scheduler that you believe you should be seeing, first thing I always do, and I have to do this a lot myself, and I'm sure Kurt can attest to doing it as well, but just go into here, click reset filters and hit go, and you'll see everything. Again, you might need to start filtering down again once you have everything showing up, but it's a good practice just to make sure you clear out any of your previous filters and make sure you're starting fresh as you rebuild your filters.
All right, thank you. If there's no other questions, I think that's it. If there's other, we did do a tips and tricks earlier on scheduler. If there's ever functionality that you're unsure of how to use or anything, please reach out to the instructor hotline, and we're here to help you and to do individual webinars if you need a little training. But we don't need we don't know you need help unless you let us know. So please reach out. We're here to help. Thanks a lot. I'm done, Haley, if that's all.
Sorry, just to interrupt one more time. I apologize. Going along with that, for the person who asked that question, if you do have the specifics of the shift you want us to look into, yeah, as Kurt said, reach out either via the instructor hotline or regular support, or you can email support@fisdap.net. But if we get the specifics, we should be able to look in deeply onto whatever specifically is going on. But generally speaking, the reset filter is a good place to start.
All right.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks, Kurt, and thank you, Ben, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. We hope to have you join us for the next Tips and Tricks webinars coming up on February 5th and 19th. To stay up to date on upcoming webinars or to see recordings of previous webinars, you can visit go.fisdap.net/tipsandtricks. And there will be a quick survey after the webinar, so if you have any questions that weren't addressed during today's webinar, feel free to submit them there, and you can also submit suggestions for future topics. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.